information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to the Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
It's that time. It's that channel. This is the Changing Stage radio show powered by the WS Radio Network. And we are brought to you by our fun friends over at Music Power, where real musicians help you with real gear. I'm your host, Florentino. And like always, we have an amazing show for you today. Today we have two incredible guests, friends of friends, and now they're friends from an amazing band from the 80s called the Monroes. We have Mr. Jesus Tony Ortiz, or known as Tony Monroe.
Yeah, Tony Ortiz, yeah.
Okay.
And then, Tony Monroe, too, you know.
And, of course, the incredible bassist, Bob Davis here, who, again, I play bass, and, you know, he was inspired a bunch of us that grew up as babies in the 80s. So.
Oh, thank you.
So, welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks.
You know, and from coming out from Minneapolis and coming out from some part in San Diego.
yeah, right here, hometown.
Awesome.
It's an honor to be here with you.
Well, it's my great pleasure to have you folks on here, and I thank the folks over at Music Power, Eric and the crew, and Guitar Trader for making this happen. They've been doing some great things. In fact, 35 years they've been in business. They've been really making it happen for us, and we're going to be doing another thing here. Just kind of give a shout out for next week. We've got the pedal. What would you call that? I have to think about that. Basically, they're going to be teaching people how to use their guitar pedals. I know Paul.
Oh, is that right?
Paul's looking forward to that. So, so that's my producer, Paul. So, well, gentlemen, hey, you know, it's been a long road, right? You guys been doing this for quite some time, the 80s, and you know, I want you to kind of give me a little bit of history about yourselves, how you guys got started. We had a really great conversation with Bob. I think I really wanted to have it recorded at that time. We were talking about how it was done back then, you know, versus now.
Very different.
So tell me, how did you guys get started? How the Monroes, what was the road to the Monroes?
I was playing with a good friend of mine, Rick Elias, a very talented songwriter, singer, and a gentleman by the name of Craig Bartok, who now is the guitarist in Heart.
Oh, okay.
And I was in a band with Rick, and it was called Rick Elias and the Monroes.
Oh, okay.
And we played, and you know,
was that the first band?
That was no, not the first band I was ever in, but the beginning of all this. It started with the Monroes idea, and when I broke off from that band and Rick went off on his own, I kept the name. You know, people I guess they just assigned that name to us. They kept calling me the Monroes, and so I couldn't fight it anymore. So they would say, "Oh, Bob Monroe from the Monroes." You know, Bob Monroe. No, Bob, that's the band. So it took off from there. We recorded at a studio that was owned by Eric Denton.
Oh, okay.
AccuSound, and he was also a very talented keyboardist in his own right. He was playing in a local band called Peter Rabbit, very well-known band. Yeah. And Eric came into that studio. I showed him some of my material, and it was just an instant kind of bond. We just, wow, this makes a lot of sense. So we put together a band. I had written some songs, and we produced it. It was just actually Eric and myself alone, just sitting in that studio, just playing all the tracks and calling people up and having them come into the studio. And we had brought that tape to a guy who later became our manager, John DeVirian, up in Hollywood. Okay. And he loved what he heard. He brought it over to A&M Records, and they said, well, we'd like to hear the band. And we said, well, you know, I got news for you, John, and we don't really have a band yet, and we didn't expect that kind of...
That was not very common back then. It's very common now. You have two people and they call it a band, but back then that was definitely not common.
So, you know, we had a certain thing in mind that we wanted to accomplish. We wanted the dual harmonies. I was very inspired, of course, growing up with John and Paul, and I wanted to do that kind of a thing. And so we knew that we needed a very strong vocalist.
Okay.
And we put out our feelers, and when we I mean, a lot of people showed up, because of course when you have a deal being offered or you have attention from a record label, a lot of people come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
But it wasn't 2 minutes after we heard Tony opened his mouth that we knew that.
Well, and I knew too, because these guys came after me. They sought me. We had known each other a couple of years before that, and they came looking for me, and they came knocking on my door, and they gave me a cassette tape back in the days.
What's
cassette
that?
tape?
What's
yeah, I know.
cassette tape?
What's that? Yeah.
You could have said an 8-track.
I know. Well, I don't want to get that old, Okay. Anyway, but gave me a cassette tape, and I listened to it, and it had like 3 songs on it, I think. And I listened to that, and I said, yeah, this is really good. And I learned the songs and went into the studio. That was my audition, was going into the studio with these guys. And I went in and I did it, and I sang the songs, and I think they recorded a track or 2. And I went into the studio and went into the control room, and they all looked at me and they go, yeah.
What was interesting about Tony is he had this, and he still does to this day, he had this humility. And when he opens his mouth, we never heard anybody sing like that. And he was just so shy about it. And so, and we knew right away, we said, you know what, that's the sound. And we still sing together.
Yeah.
When we sing together, it's just,
it's still the same.
It's still the same. It just worked. I don't think we ever rehearsed the vocal.
Yeah.
No, we actually it would just click.
Yeah, we just
sang.
It
just kind of clicked, and it would happen that way. And he'd come in with the new song, and he'd show me the song and the lyrics, and we'd sing it, and it would click right then and there.
That's it. Yeah, it was done.
Yeah.
In this day of electronic production, and we talked about 1 or 2 people, the idea of chemistry seems to be lost.
Chemistry is everything. Yeah, everything.
And I think that's the case. I hope that it comes back out. We see a lot of these new musicians. That's part of a lot of people who listen to the show are these, young musicians.
Yeah.
And, so I think that's awesome. So you guys had this chemistry.
Yep.
And you had a manager that actually, had some connections. So tell us, you got signed to a Japanese label, talking to A&M. So tell us about that.
Well, we did the showcases now. We did showcases for A&M and a lot of the big players, but it was that Japanese label that.
Well, it was A&M. We played for them, and finally, Jerry Moss talked to me, and he said, listen, I'm going to pass on you, Bob. He says, I've made many mistakes before, and it's just, it just maybe it doesn't make sense for us at this time. So, and he was very wonderful about it.
Yeah.
Really, I appreciated that. Lauren Safer and Bob Feed were both at A&M Records for 14 or 15 years, responsible for all the biggest acts they ever had, from Kim Carnes to a whole notes to the Police and all these bands. So, Lauren Safer and Bob Feed were very supportive of the Monroes. And when Jerry said no, it just happened that at the same time, they were offered positions with Alpha Records.
Oh, okay.
So they became president and vice president of Alpha Records.
That was the local representatives here in the States.
Well, they were going to open an American office. Of course, they were a very big company in Japan. Lauren and Bob got back on the phone and said, listen, we're not going to give up on this because we really have a lot of faith in you.
Well, good.
So that's how
Alpha. All the great music.
That's how Alpha came about.
Yeah. And it was so nice to have that real personal connection with those guys, because they came down to see us at the Spirit Club, the old Spirit Club, which is Brick by Brick now.
Yeah.
And they'd come down, and they were so supportive and so much there.
Such fans.
Yeah, fans also. So it made a big difference in what we were doing,
And I think that was one of the big things differently now. Obviously, with labels, they had. That's what the A&R people were usually. They weren't musicians; they were fans, and they just knew a whole ton of music.
I think that today, the young musicians and artists, I think that they still need to remember that. So they need to know that they have to surround themselves with people that are very big fans of them.
Yeah.
And they go out and they play or they perform, and then they say, we're not getting anywhere, this and that. Well, they're not looking far enough. If they've got talent, then somebody is going to like them. And when you surround yourself with fans, then things will happen. When you surround yourself with people that understand the business, and now the business is changing.
Yeah, it's hugely different.
You can't rely on yourself. You're an artist. You're a songwriter. You need to surround yourself with people that understand that business, especially now that the business is changing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Wild West now, where everything's kind of changing so fast.
Yeah.
But, you have to kind of do what, the trend is and kind of go with it. But also I think Bob's right. You got to remember that old school mentality of trying to grab everyone that likes what you're doing and include them in what you're doing.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of getting experts.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with experts that are fans, because you can't be expecting, and now everybody wants to do it themselves. I'm going to stay in my bedroom, I'm going to record a song, I'm going to be on American Idol, and I'm going to be big. You have to understand that there are people that do understand this business, even though it's changing.
Yeah,
there are experts.
Exactly.
Surround yourself, find experts that love your music.
And
then you're in good shape.
So we got about a minute left before our commercial break. Okay. You guys right now have a little resurgence. I want to kind of talk about what it was to be a hit, in the next segment. But it's www.themonroes.com, right?
There's a new website. That's where you can go to that new website. Yeah.
So make sure you guys go to
Monroes.com.
Monroes.com. You're on iTunes, so that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a bit in the next segments about the resurgence of everything. Okay. But I think that's really cool that today, the young people get a chance to hear what the artistry was like back then, because you guys were inspired by all the classics from, you talking about the Beatles, we're talking about the Stones, so.
Yeah. Well, you can talk about a lot of stuff because we all had different influences. Yeah. Because I had a lot of R&B influences, a lot of soul influences, and rock and roll too, so. But we can talk about that.
Very cool, very cool. So, I want to give a shout out to Music Power because they really helped us out. Okay. MusicPower.com, Guitar Trader. Go out to the Pedal Fest here next weekend. Make sure you stay tuned because we've only got a few short minutes and we're back with Tony and Bob from the Monroes.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goley, one thing that you have helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get to the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life. Live it well.
Your guy, Doug Young, here for Sports Squawk Saturday with your guy, Doug Young, here on WSRadio.com. Hear hot Charger talk from the biggest names in sports every Saturday here on WS Radio.
In the military, things can change in an instant. The Navy Mutual Aid Association, we understand because it's our life too. That's why our dedication to serving the life insurance needs of our military veterans and their families is unrivaled. Navy Mutual offers superior life insurance protection without military service restrictions and limitations. A single focus on providing the peace of mind military families are looking for. That's what we do. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve. Call 800-628-6011 or go to NavyMutual.org.
Are you ready to get real about your music? My name's Florentino, and I'm the host of The Changing Stage. On my show, we get the real stories of how great music and musicians are made. You know who else is real? The professionals at MusicPower.com. They help serious players make music happen with the right advice, direction, and cutting-edge gear. Isn't it time you leave amateur hour behind? Then go to MusicPower.com. Real musicians, real gear.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
to the Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
All right, we are back with Bob and Tony. Tony and Bob and Tony of the Monroes. Now, you guys were not all the guys. We talked a little bit about Eric. There's some other incredible players that you folks had, right?
Yeah, you bet. Like I said before, we wanted to be a band. We wanted to be well-rounded. And, and I can write some cute love songs and things like that. I'm a melody guy. Cute. And, but I wanted a lot of depth. Yeah. And for that, I depended on, I wanted to have another writer in the band, a strong songwriter. And in that, I found that in a gentleman called Rusty Jones, who I went to school with, and I knew was a fantastic guitarist, but mainly he really contributed that the writing that I really wanted to have a unit like that we could provide that kind of writing, the chemistry, and to have some depth in the music. He's one of the most, one of the best songwriters out there. So definitely. And because of I am a very, I think in terms of commerciality, and I always liked side one, I always liked the hits, the bands that I wasn't like other musicians that liked side two, the long jam. I liked their hit, and then everything else wasn't as good for me. So I didn't want to come off too poppy. Yeah. And so what we found is that by adding Johnny Gilstrap, a power drummer, powerhouse drummer. Just a powerhouse. I mean, when he plays the drums, when we recorded the album, Bruce Botnick was amazed, and Alex Vertikoff, because there would be an inch dent in the snare drum head after about 2 songs. Yeah. And that really added another aspect to our music. It gave it a driving force instead of making it cutesy. And so they were such a big part that, as I said before, all 5 of us together is what we intended to create with this, and it wasn't just an accident. A real band.
I think, you look at Rusty Jones and you look at Johnny Gilstrap and Eric Denton and Bob and myself. I mean, the moment that we played together, there was such a chemistry there that it was beyond anything I've ever known before. And I'd been playing in other bands, so has Bob, so has everybody else in the band before that. And but to get back to those 2 guys that we're talking about right now, Rusty Jones is a great guitar player and a great songwriter, and Johnny Gilstrap was the powerhouse drummer. And I love drummers because I'm a frustrated closet drummer myself. So I know what a good drummer sounds like, and I go, okay, that's what I like. And every time he would always come through with that, and the whole band would come through. But it was just such a great rush to have that,
That's an awesome story, and those are the kind of stories that we need to hear more about today for the bands today. Now, you guys created the band, you got your label now, and all of a sudden, you guys are starting to see hits. I mean,
we're starting to see radio play. Yeah, radio on Billboard, and we're looking at Billboard magazine and Cashbox.
Yeah, most people don't even know Cashbox.
They don't. Anymore. I don't think it's even out anymore, is it? But anyway.
No, I think that was the first one, but they killed it off later on towards the early 90s.
So we were watching that, and I'd go to Bob's house, and he'd have the Billboard thing out. We're climbing the charts, Well,
I remember the first time I heard John DeVarian, our manager, called me and said, "Oh, listen, you're on the the sheet right now from back east."
Yeah. And, definitely.
And he says, you just hit the Billboard charts at 80 with a bullet. And you don't really know what anything means in the beginning, and I didn't expect anything.
Young guys.
I didn't think anything would happen that fast.
Right.
And, well, what does that mean? He says, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
And, we got, over the years, I've discovered that we have a lot of fans in pockets all across the country. New Jersey, New York, Minneapolis, where I'm coming from, and right here in the Central Valley, here in California, in San Diego, of course, and in Dallas and so forth. I mean, a lot of pockets in Florida.
I think around the world, right?
Around the world. And now even in Switzerland, there's a couple of people that are playing our stuff at their 80s dance parties in Switzerland. So a shout out to them.
Now, you guys are known as a new wave group, but you guys had like a diversified sound. I mean, you really couldn't pigeonhole it. I wouldn't put it that way, at least with what I've heard.
I think we came out at a new wave time.
We did.
But I don't think we were necessarily a new wave band.
No, we were a rock and roll band, and basically that's what we were.
But I think they would put groups in that. That was the way it was going. So now you hit the 80s and you're on a bullet. Tell us about the song. Tell us about the hit song. Tell us about the TV shows. I got a chance to see a few of them. And tell us about those kind of stories that you guys experienced along that way.
Well, I think doing Merv Griffin, I think that was a kind of a big thing for us, and seeing how we didn't have a music video out. At the time, we were looking at doing a music video. I think Bob told me a story of that the girlfriends of the band were sitting in the lobby of Alpha Records, and they heard that they were going belly up. And I think we were going in to go talk to them about doing a video.
That's right, yeah.
And all of a sudden, everything was gone. So we were that, and you can't see me because it's radio, but inches away from doing a music video, which MTV was just coming out.
Yeah, it was. Most people don't realize it. One, they played music on the early days of music television.
Right.
And two, it came out in what was
81 or 82. Yeah.
I was in Los Angeles once, and I remember somebody came up to me and said, I don't remember what function I was at, and they said, "You realize you were like one of the last bands to record on vinyl." And I didn't know how I felt about that. I thought that's kind of cool, but it sounded strange. And now I believe it's coming back a little bit. But
yeah, quite a bit of the groups are looking at vinyl just because of the DJs still, gravitate to that thing. So so you did Merv Griffin, and that was really cool.
We started playing a few dates. We played with the Motels. We played with Tommy Two-Tone, and we
Rick
played
Springfield
with Toto.
Yeah.
Well, then all of a sudden, Rick contacts us, Rick Springfield, and I suppose, from what I understand, he was interested in maybe performing what all the people know, but he knew that we just had come out with the song and it was getting attention and hitting the charts, and he says, "Well, why don't you just come out on the road with us?"
Yeah.
And he was
What
playing.
was the name of the song?
His song at the time, the tour that he was doing was the Jessie's Girl tour, the Sweat for Success, 1982.
Yeah.
So it was a big tour, and he had, he had sold out sports arenas all around. So he took us and the Motels out with him, and Greg Kinn, and it was a great time. We got to meet all these people, which for us was, and he treated us
like just gold. He treated us so good.
Wonderful.
I've heard he's a great guy.
It was, and we bonded with the band. Jack White, his drummer, became such a good friend of mine, and I spent so much time with him in Los Angeles, and Rick was just wonderful. In fact, I just went out to see one of his shows and introduced him to my wife, and she was so, this is Rick Springfield. But he's a wonderful, wonderful man.
A very nice man, yes.
To give us a new band,
a start like that.
That in front of 20,000 people on the road. Yeah. We were in ecstasy,
Yeah, definitely.
We were just, and I've never forgotten it.
Well, so you're on tour with Rick Springfield. And, we always like to hear this kind of story because it's always entertaining. What was like the craziest thing that you can remember? And share both. I mean, hopefully there's different ones, or maybe it's the same. But Tony, we'll start with you, Tony.
Okay. Yeah, I think just the aspect that we were out on the road, and we were all most of us hadn't been on the road, was in itself the most fantastic thing to happen to us. And stuff happens on the road that doesn't happen to normal people, I know our bus, our van with all our equipment gets, in a car accident with everything in it,
That was bad, and our sound
guy had broken leg, and it's just, it's just one of those things. It was a bad thing, and it's not a crazy thing, but it's crazy in the sense that you don't see that happening.
And again, Rick Springfield rented us equipment.
He got everything
the next
for us.
City. Yeah. We were going to Michigan and had everything waiting for us when we got there. And again, he came through for us when we needed him.
Now we're traveling on this tour. Rick's in a bus or he's flying or whatever, right? Yeah. We're in 2 rented station wagons.
Well, at one point, we had a motorhome.
Okay, but that was the second half. But the first half, we were in 2 rented station wagons.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we're,
the Griswolds going to
exactly.
Wally World.
So, that in itself, think about that. Any band today, I know the guys go out on the road today, but they usually have a big 15-passenger van. They're all in one van.
Yeah.
We were in 2 rented station wagons. And
that's awesome.
And we're all a bunch of hams, and we get along very well. We had more fun, and it's just hilarious, you know.
Yeah.
And driving through 90 miles an hour, our roadie is driving our car. Pat McDonald. He was our only crew now because of the fact that our wreck that occurred. Yeah. So Pat worked like 4 people.
Yeah, he did. Absolutely.
And we're getting pulled over going through Texas 100 miles an hour. He's telling us, look, I wasn't going 90. We had a great time.
Yeah.
You know, when we're not kind of a band, we weren't the kind of guys, you know, we go destroy hotel
rooms that's not
or do anything like that. But I do remember.
Okay, here we go.
That when we played one, you know, they put you in the bathrooms of the bottom, the locker rooms or the bathrooms. And that's where you get ready for your show. And they often, in those days, would bring in a giant platter of meats and cheeses and on a gigantic platter. And I remember at one point,
craft catering, they used to call it.
Yeah, right. And you know, you're all pumped up. You're getting ready to go on stage and all. And I remember Pat and the guys turning the hand dryers. They would turn some of those metal things, turning them and launching the meat across the room, splattering on the mirror. We had just a ball.
Yeah. Well, somebody had to clean it up. I don't know if it's too much of a ball for them.
Much of a ball.
But yeah, I mean, you know, and we're the kind of band that, you know, we're young and we were out to have a good time. And yeah, there was certain times and certain things that we had a good time. Maybe we shouldn't have done, but I think overall we were good guys and we, you know, we tried to do the best we could. And it was a 20,000 seat arenas. And we had never been in that situation.
That's just mind-boggling to me. Just jump from, you know, playing in a studio
in a
and then
small
all
club.
The clubs and then boom.
Yep. And it was just amazing.
You're in this incredible environment.
You hear about groups that'll tell you, you know, it's tough on the road, it's dog eat dog, and it's this and that. And you know, I for one, we didn't have that experience. Well, for us, it was wonderful. Yeah, we appreciated it.
Well, we're Stories from the Road with Tony and Bob and the Monroes. My name's Florentino. This is The Changing Stage. Again, thanks for the Music Power. We're going to be back here in a few short minutes to talk a bit more about the Monroes and, you know, what they're doing now.
Are you ready to get real about your music? My name's Florentino, and I'm the host of The Changing Stage. On my show, we get the real stories of how great music and musicians are made. You know who else is real? The professionals at musicpower.com. They help serious players make music happen with the right advice, direction, and cutting-edge gear. Isn't it time you leave amateur hour behind and go to musicpower.com? Real musicians, real gear.
Love to read but just don't have the time? With Audible.com, you can catch up on reading simply by listening. Audible has the largest collection of digital audiobooks, over 85,000 titles in every genre. Listen to a bestseller on your iPhone, BlackBerry, Android smartphone, or one of 500 other compatible devices. Visit audible.com/WS Radio today and get a free audiobook when you try Audible free for 14 days. That's audible.com/WS Radio.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
When it comes to printers, Canon technology has changed the way images and text are put to paper. Canon's laser beam printer technology has redefined both color and black and white printing standards in over 80% of the world's laser printer. Canon's bubble jet printing technology has completely revolutionized color printing by consistently delivering new innovations from personal use and home office businesses to corporate solutions. Canon printers have the technology and reliability you're looking for. Learn more at Canon.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to the Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
We are back for the third segment of the Monroes show. My name is Florentino Buenaventura. This is the Changing Stage, and I'm here with Bob and Tony Monroe.
Hey,
as you guys were commonly known as.
Yeah, that's who we are.
And, we just talked a little bit about, some of the stories on the road and the successes and stuff like that. And you know what? There's always a growth period. You're always kind of moving on to different things and changing things. Obviously, for a while there, the Monroes basically went to different directions. There are some challenges sometimes you meet, but there's ways to kind of look at that and how you turn that. Tell us a little bit about where you guys have kind of gone right now.
Well, at the time when Alpha was closing their American office, that was a big blow to us, of course. And we had interest from CBS, which we actually signed with. Al Teller over at CBS, and the problem with a band that maybe only has one hit, or you're not very established, is CBS had a long list of artists that they support, and you're going to compete with, at the time, people like Kenny Loggins, people like Michael Jackson, and when you get played on the radio, and that guy walks into the radio station, it just wouldn't. Obviously, it wouldn't be right for the Monroes. They're going to get play before you. So they had a term for that, a phrase, and they called it "lost in the shuffle."
Yeah.
And so that's what happened at CBS, and we never really got off the ground over there. And Al Teller left.
Yeah, that's when you're after that. Yeah,
right. He went somewhere else.
He went somewhere else, and so when you lose your support at a label, then of course you're kind of lost, and nobody knows what to do with you there. So at the time, our attorneys told us, well, listen, if you want to keep a good relationship with the company, instead of getting money every 6 months, just bow out of the deal, and so that's what happened. So these things happen. Again, you have to surround yourself with the people, your family, and friends. You got to keep other irons in the fire.
Yeah.
And your family's important.
Yeah, I think family is everything. Friends and family is what it's all about. And I went to Minneapolis and I got I found myself there, and I really enjoyed being in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I ended up with 5 kids. And
why don't you say hi to them?
And I'm going to say hi to all my kids right now.
What kind of production you've been doing?
That's right.
I'm going to say hi to all 5 of my kids, and it's Jenny, Nick, Tuesday, Noah, Isaiah, and they're all good kids, and they're all grown, and they're all thriving and doing really good things there in Minneapolis. I also want to say hi to Erin, a special friend, really special friend that is she's very, very close to my heart, and her kids, which is John, Stephen, Gunnar, and Maya. So you have to have that in your life. You have to have things in your life that mean something.
Yeah.
And I want to just take a moment just to take us from the end of that time of being at the label, and then going into in my life of just being positive and still playing music and still writing. And I became a songwriter shortly after that, because I started to kind of feel my way through. I always kind of wrote melodies.
Yeah.
But as an actual songwriter, I started to use the muscles that I got from Mr. Bob and Mr. Rusty here, and that influence from them. And I was able to, because these guys are writing songs that were like little books, I had to learn them. I had to learn all the lyrics.
Well, 90% of writing is sitting down to write.
Yeah.
And people need to understand that. You have to work at writing.
Yeah.
You can't just have ideas in your head. But if you sit down and write, these things are going to come out.
And it's very true. And that's what happened to me. So I started writing, and I started doing my own thing. And I'm not sure if this is the segment we're going to talk about that, but if it is, I've been doing.
It is now.
I've been doing my own thing and writing my own stuff, but I also play What Do All the People Know with the bands I put together.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of resurgence. Again, there's resurgence for What Do All the People Know in the Monroe stuff.
Yeah, it's tough to play it. Yeah. Tough to play it with people. people. You know, if I'm playing What Do All the People Know with somebody, it's usually a girl that has to sing Tony's part.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, you know, hey, you know, it's a good thing. But, I love these guys. I love the Monroes. I love the time that we had together. We're like brothers. And we care about each other, and I think that,
that's amazing, man, because you don't hear that story too often.
You don't. And I care about these guys, and I think that we could probably, if we could do something, I would love to do something as far as a reunion thing again here within a very short amount of time before we're all too old to do anything.
And we're having a lot of people that are asking us to do this and telling us. I mean, the love of my life now for the last 15 years, Mireille, she's telling me all the time,
exactly.
You know, this is special. You need to do this. You need to get together. And when now that we've released our unreleased material.
So these are all new songs.
Right. New songs
except for What Do All the People Know was the top one, but all the rest were unreleased.
What Do All the People Know is actually an entirely different recorded version of the song.
That's true. That's right.
Different guitarist, Mr. Mark Entravaya.
That's right.
Playing guitar on it, and it's the unedited version. We used to have extra choruses at the end.
Oh, okay.
So it's got a little bit something different with us.
The extended version versus the radio version.
The extended version. Bruce Botnick chopped up some of the end, so made it. But we were getting a lot of attention with the Amazon and the iTunes, and I didn't expect such a great reception. So I would be very interested, and we've been talking about it, about having a reunion performance with the Monroes and getting us all together.
I think a lot of people would want to see and hear that. So
thank you.
And
that would be great.
Earlier, guys, we were talking about. I showed them our live room, and I was like, hey guys,
that would be awesome.
It'd be great for you guys to come back.
That would be really awesome.
Do a show here and play it live. Do a couple of 3 songs and then you share it with everybody. Maybe before it comes out.
That would be fantastic. We would be flattered.
That might even catapult us into some of the local places here to have us come do shows there, like the Casbah or whatever, you know.
Yeah, there's a few. We're definitely going to talk about the music scene here and then how it is, live and stuff like that in the next segment. But I think that is, just amazing that you guys have been able to keep that friendship, and you've done some things. Now you've got your own band, right, Tony?
I've got my own band, and it's Tony Ortiz and the Guns of Soul, and I do my own thing, and it's a mix of all kinds of styles. I call it Southern California rock because that's really what it's all about. It's kind of that way.
Now you had some different influences. You mentioned who were some of the influences from?
I think I started off with the Beatles, just like the rest of us.
I think we all did, right?
Yeah.
Paul, were you a Beatles guy?
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, my parents used to listen to it a lot, so that's how I got
Oh,
my
okay.
Oh, he just
made us old, man. He just made us old.
That's my producer, Paul Berezetsky. So Beatles, you were.
Yep. Beatles, and then I got the whole R&B influence with Aretha Franklin, hearing her the first time when I was probably 8 or 9 or something like that.
What you want?
Yeah, exactly. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up at 8 years old, and I knew something was right with that, and it was like, yeah, that is good. So, and I just kept kind of doing that, and I was, very blessed enough to play with a lot of really good people. Growing up, starting at 14 years old, 13 years old, playing with older guys and just doing some really good music. And then, of course, with the Monroes, of course, and then after that even. So,
yeah.
See, there's an example of how you don't have to only play with people that have your influences. We all had different influences.
Absolutely.
I grew up with a country background. My father played hillbilly music, country, the old stuff, Merle Haggard, and the Ernest Tubb. And so when I was 5 years old, I had my guitar in my hand and I was playing Walking the Floor Over You and things like that. And so very different influences. And of course the Beatles and I loved the Monkees. And I know my friend Sam, our buddy, good friend Sam Kinison said, Monkees, they weren't even a group. And he used to kid me about that. But really, it's Boyce and Hart, those writers that really meant something to me. And those commercial,
they became a group though.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. I think so. But at 12 years old, they meant something to me.
Yeah.
And I, some of those songs when in my first group I was in, we would play some of those or try. And those commercial melodies, those really great
voice
and heart songs, the hooks, meant something. And that's very different from what Tony went through, and different from what Eric went through, and Johnny. But when you put it all
Eric
together...
told me you had a Gary Newman face.
Is that right? Okay.
I had to call you out on that, Eric.
Oh, my God, Eric.
Yeah, well...
Oh, I can't wait till I see him.
But people will often hear you and think that you're influenced by a certain thing, and it's maybe far from the truth. I've heard people say to us, oh, it's really like the Squeeze. And I have to, and now the Squeeze, since then I've heard a little bit. I thought, oh, they're really good. I had never heard them before that. So it's just a matter of what people interpret.
I wouldn't have said the Squeeze. They're a different sound. I think you guys had your own sound. You were the Monroes, and you had that sound.
I think we did definitely have it.
Maybe because of all the different influences.
Yeah, everyone always tries to find, friend of mine, actually the owner of the station says we always look for patterns, so we always kind of look for different things that we can associate to different things. So,
but when you're putting together a band, if you're a young artist, I say you look for the talent and for chemistry as people. Don't always look for something that maybe somebody's only influenced by what you're influenced in.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I've gotten from all the guests, we've had guests that are new, we've had guests that have been doing it for a long time. We talked about Nathan and Nathan East, everybody, and it's always about the passion and the transparency. If you can do those two things, you'll have a real career, longevity. And I think that's really one of the keys that I've heard from everybody, because the people who put up the fronts, the facades, those fall away at some point. You have to give those
absolutely.
Up.
Absolutely.
The things that influence you the most or make you passionate about what you're doing, that's where you have to
And I think it doesn't matter if you're playing for one person or 1,000 people or 100,000 people. If you are honest and true with your own craft and your own artistry, then it comes through every time.
Yeah, and then you don't have to be the mega superstar, because you'll always find an audience. And I think we're going to talk about that in the next segment, how things are changing. You don't have to have a major label and all the other things. We're going to kind of share that with our audience here. And, again, it's been awesome hearing these different stories. We're going to have to take another commercial break. And, I want to give a shout out again for musicpower.com and Guitar Trader, because, they've really supported us, and they're doing a huge effort in helping people recognize our show, and I just thank them there. And they've been in business for 35 years, and that's a testament, kind of like the Monroes. You guys are still doing it.
Right.
We're going to be coming back to that segment shortly. This is Florentino on the Changing Stage with Tony and Bob.
Are you ready to get real about your music? My name's Florentino, and I'm the host of The Changing Stage. On my show, we get the real stories of how great music and musicians are made. You know who else is real? The professionals at musicpower.com. They help serious players make music happen with the right advice, direction, and cutting-edge gear. Isn't it time you leave amateur hour behind? Then go to musicpower.com. Real musicians, real gear.
You've heard me bragging about Progressive Medical Center and how they've helped me feel so much healthier. But one thing, Dr. Agoli, that a lot of people come to you with is just unexplained pain. They just can't get any relief. Why can Progressive Medical Center's Pain Management Center help them?
First of all, we have to acknowledge that pain is for real, and you've got acute pain and chronic pain. Here's the problem. That acute pain turns to chronic, which is long-standing, and no one's getting to the root cause. There's several key diagnostic components that help us get to the root of what's causing this pain. Is it inflammation? Once we do a thorough evaluation to get the root cause, determine if it's structural or if it's a metabolic issue. And this way, we put an individualized program for pain management involving correcting the spine, using certain injections when necessary, and we get our patients out of pain quicker, and they stay out of pain because we teach them how to live their life well.
Don't let yourself live in pain any longer. Get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today at progressivemedicalcenter.com.
Progressive Medical, this is your life, live it well.
Are you an adventurous wine drinker? Would you enjoy trying a bold red with dark fruit and a spicy finish from Hungary? Or an amphora-style Chivi Pinot with layers of complex flavors? Carpathian Wines hand selects extraordinary wines from premier Central European wineries. At CarpathianWines.com, you'll find amazing dry whites, big juicy reds, even the famous Tokaja Azul. Discover award-winning limited production wines from the heart of Central Europe. Find them only at CarpathianWines.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
To me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to the Changing Stage, music gear talk from the manufacturers and musicians who define the biz. Here's your host, Florentino Buenaventura.
Yes, it's the Changing Stage. I know that because we just heard our theme song played incredibly, the guitar part by Mr. Paul Barnes.
That's pretty cool. That's great.
My producer here. Funny thing is, he always gets on me because I always forget. I can remember everybody else's music, but I played the bass on it, and he called me out while I was playing the bass, and he said, "Play the lick to the tune." I couldn't remember it for the life of me. I hear it every week.
Oh my God!
I couldn't remember what I played, so that was pretty funny. I know you guys probably find that sometimes too. You're like, "What did I play?" There?
Oh. Yeah, with lyrics. I would ask Bob, what's the first word of the song? He would tell me, and then it would all come to me just like that. Yeah.
So, yeah, those are, that's part of being in the business, right? Yeah. So, you know what? Sometimes I wish we had the mic going during the commercial breaks, folks, because we get some great stories talking about here. Bob was sharing with us just this wonderful story about what it was like to be on Merv Griffin and the transformations. Can you share that with us again?
No, well, it was really exciting, of course, just what you would think it would be. But we got there and we were rehearsing all day, and all we had known before was, of course, watching Merv on TV and
what you see in front of your face.
What you see in front of you, and he seems like this little meek kind of very polite, kind of guy that would talk to people. And but I remember when we were rehearsing that day in the studio, and we were running through everything with the director, of course, and everybody's giving you marks and where they're going to stand, and they're saying, well, here Merv's going to talk to you, or here's what you're going to do then. And so there was obviously nobody in the studio at the time. And how many people you think it held, Tony?
I think it was packed. It was probably about 1,000 people.
Maybe that many people that fit into the studio, and it was empty. And I looked up from the stage, which interesting stage, by the way, when you're playing on it, the whole stage, the entire stage, when the curtain is closed, moves forward while you're playing.
Oh, wow.
So you're slowly moving forward. Slowly, so when the song starts, you're playing, that entire stage moves out and the curtains open and you're out. So it was a neat
We definitely don't see that too much anymore.
Also, you might want to mention, or I'll mention it, that we sang live.
Yes, we did. Yeah, the people don't, a lot of times they just are lip syncing.
No Milli Vanilli for you guys?
No Milli Vanilli for us.
No Milli Vanilli.
Yeah.
So we remember we were running through the song, and I look in the back of the room and I see this guy walk in, and immediately I said, I don't know who that is, because I couldn't really see the front. I said, but whoever that is, he's a star. And it was Merv.
Wow.
And he was looked bigger than life. He looked over 6 feet to me. He was 10. He was just, I thought, wow, now that guy commands some respect. And it turned out to be Merv walking in. So.
And so funny, because when you did, that was it. You seen him before. He was just sitting there, and he was just like, he always let the gas be bigger than life.
Yeah,
and that was kind of his thing.
Yes, he did.
And, the funny thing is I don't know, a lot of people don't realize he was probably, if not the most powerful person in the television business, but one of them at that time.
Yeah, it was up on Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard and Hollywood TAV, where it was, and I think he owned that entire block. I don't know what kind of real estate what kind of price that commands, but
that's quite a bit now.
So the man, he was very powerful.
Yeah, he was real powerful in that, and then he took a liking to you guys. So
Well, my first publishing deal was with In fact, good friends of mine, Rick Elias, who I mentioned earlier, and Craig Bartok, who's the guitarist in Heart now. Yeah. And we were signed to Vogue Music, which was Lawrence Welk, which was people are surprised when they hear that, but Lawrence was also one of those people.
No Bubble songs for you though.
No, not for us, but he was another one of those people that when you meet him, he was bigger than life.
Yeah.
Bigger than life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. But you know what we were talking to about, kind of segues into, what we'd like to talk about in this segment right now, which is where things are. And, we have a lot of listeners that are just starting in the business that really want to know what they should do, what was done before and how it's done now. And, we talked about heart, passion, transparency, and be part of that. Tell us about your thoughts on those.
Yeah, and I'll start off with that. And I'm going to keep it really simple because that's what I do. And I think if you follow what you're doing, what your dream is to be a great artist or a great singer or a great musician, I think you just need to keep doing it and keep doing it according to what's good for you in your own life and your heart, and follow that through at every stage of the game. A lot of times that comes with sacrifice, and you're going to sacrifice some things. But I think if you keep the end goal, that vision ahead of you, and you go, I'm going to keep doing this. Yeah. It's no doubt that you're going to get somewhere, And for me, that's what I've done. And I think the young people out there, I think that's what one of the things they should think about is just keep at it and keep doing it.
I think young people quite often get hung up on trying to be mega superstars,
right?
And they don't realize having a lifetime in the business, being able to do what you love, being able to play music and still carry on with that, that's probably more successful. You hear too many sad stories of these mega superstars, not being able to.
Well, they get wrapped up in the hype.
Exactly.
Don't get wrapped up in your own hype,
Yeah.
Somebody once said, I don't know who this was, but they said John Lennon was famous because he wouldn't have it any other way. I think that's important. Yeah. You can dream and you can sit in your bedroom and want to be something, but I think one of the most important things now that I'm older, if I had to tell somebody how to do it when they're young, is don't give up. I mentioned this earlier, I think. Don't give up on trying to find somebody who can help move your music.
Yeah.
Do not give up on that, because there's something for everybody. Yeah. Let's face it. Listen to music out there. Things that you think are just would never, ever appeal to people do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you find that those people are the people that didn't give up finding somebody that liked them because they didn't want to accept defeat. Don't go out, try to find maybe a manager, this and that maybe, we went to 2 and they didn't really care for us.
Yeah.
Well, then go to 100.
Yes.
Go to people
keep doing it.
Don't give up on that. Yes, you wouldn't have this music if you didn't appeal to somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't have a complete demo. Go to 1,000 people that are experts in the business. If you do that kind of work, I guarantee you, if you have something, you're not going to strike out.
Yeah,
you're going to find more than just one, and that's all you need.
Yeah.
But you're going to find more than just one that are going to think you're great.
I think with the tools that we have now, all the gear, people, like I think you mentioned it earlier in one of the the breaks, that people sit in the room and write music, think that
that's right.
If I just put it out on the internet, it may get happen. Sometimes it does, but I think there's still the human element where interacting.
Absolutely.
I mean, Michelangelo Battio said this business is no longer about doing tours to support the records. It's all about now making records to support the tours, and I think that's pretty true. That rings really well, because you've got music. It's free for the most part, out there, and there's other ways to kind of keep your career going. So
look, a lot of people that come from our era, a lot of artists, and I know they're frustrated, and some of them are brilliant writers and artists, are sour because they say, look, the music business is imploding, and yes, it is. But, you have to embrace the change. You have to say it's going to change. That doesn't mean that everything's going to remain desolate and barren. But that's why I say get yourself surrounded by experts, because there are experts in in the way things are going to go.
People who've done it before, right?
Or people that are going to do it, but have a real knowledge about maybe they can predict where it's going to go, and they can see the technology. They can see the industry.
Yeah.
Find these people. Let them be your vehicle. Don't rely on yourself in your bedroom or your YouTube. Like you said, sometimes it works. Yeah. But I wouldn't rely on that.
No, you do them all. In fact, even for like the radio show, we're doing it all. We're trying to get out there. We want to do events. We want to, to get the promotion, because it's the same kind of thing. Exposure. As many people can hear you and feel you. Yeah. That's it. So we've got just a second left. Okay. I didn't realize this was going great.
Oh, we're having a good time. Yeah.
One line. What would you like to say?
I want to thank Music Power and Guitar Trader.
And I'd like to thank Florentino.
Thank you guys.
Doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It was so much fun.
This is Florentino Buenaventura on The Changing Stage with Bob and Tony from the Monroes. MusicPower.com. Go there. Make sure you go to the pedal clinic coming up next Saturday on the 28th at 1 p.m. We'll see you next time.
Are you ready to get real about your music? My name's Florentino, and I'm the host of The Changing Stage. On my show, we get the real stories of how great music and musicians are made. You know who else is real? The professionals at MusicPower.com. They help serious players make music happen with the right advice, direction, and cutting-edge gear. Isn't it time you leave amateur hour behind? Then go to MusicPower.com. Real musicians, real gear.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. So we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Connected World Magazine is dedicated to reporting on the next generation of M2M and connected devices. Subscribe today for only $12.97 at connectedworldmag.com/subscribe. Written for the fast-paced, device-enthused individual or business, Connected World Magazine provides unique insight and analysis to all things connected. Subscribe today for only $12.97 at connectedworldmag.com/subscribe. Connected World. Living the connected life has never been easier.
Hi, this is Felix Taverna, host of Race and Sports Radio. Join our cast and crew every Saturday and Sunday right here at WSRadio.com, beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Race and Sports Radio.